So hello everyone, I am Alice Keeler from Fresno, California, and I have with me my guest, Adam Grocott from Jersey, not New Jersey, and not Jersey, London. I have learned this. It is Jersey, UK. Adam, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Alice, for inviting me on. It's an absolute pleasure to be a part of this. Looking forward to sharing some top tips and getting to meet other like-minded educators that are making the migration across the teams. It's something that I've just recently done with my school after being very persuasive for a very long time. So it's a great opportunity to share some ideas with like-minded people today.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear that. So Adam's like my OneNote friend. If anything is a solution, the answer is always OneNote. So all OneNote questions are going to go to Adam. But what's really unique, the reason why I asked him to join today is because just recently his school finally decided you're going to teams. You want to just share a little bit about how that's going?
Yeah, it's going really well. It's something that I and my school have been working with the states of Jersey for a long period of time, coming up 2 years now, and all of our state schools are governed centrally on one domain server. So it's not very simple then for everything that we want to do in our school to then just be distributed out to all the other schools across the island. So it's taken a lot of persuasion, and what with the circumstances that we're in at the moment, it's perceived that now was the best time to jump to teams, to which I welcome that with open arms. And what's really interesting for me now is logging into my work Outlook email account and having no emails, because everything's compartmentalized within our team's channels and what we've got set up, and it's a thing of beauty, really.
A thing of beauty. All right, so what would you say has been the best part, besides the lack of emails? What has really been helping you to do the remote learning now that you've gone onto Teams as opposed to the days before you were on Teams?
The days before we were on Teams, everything was distributed with the tools within OneNote, and the go-to question is, do the students know when you've sent them out something? And unfortunately on OneNote you don't, and I didn't want to be duplicating my workload or then emailing out communication, because that then starts in a conversation thread where it's just between me and a student. Whereas now that I can migrate my notebook to my class team, I know that with a notification post, everyone's seen that, everyone's got that notification, and also then my students have then got the opportunity to interact with myself and each other about an assignment that's been set, and everything's visible there within your channel, within your team. So that's probably the biggest win in the first instance.
Huge. So yeah, just being able to have those conversations in one place is one of my favorite reasons that I love Microsoft Teams. And as Adam had pointed out, what I feel the reason why we do Teams is so we can interact with our students. Yeah, you can throw your stuff online, but that doesn't make learning better. So I would just like to rant for a second that my passion is really around teaching, which means I teach students, not content. It's interacting with kids, it's listening to them, figuring out what adjustments I need to make, giving encouragement and feedback, and those things are really possible through Microsoft Teams. There is a tab in Teams called Files, and anything you add on to that Files tab is by default collaborative. And so that's really one of my favorite things to do with students, is to be on a collaborative document, so everyone's on the same Excel spreadsheet or everyone's on the same PowerPoint, and we share ideas together and we do feedback together, which is really something that was nearly impossible when we used paper, is to be all on the same document at the same time. Adam, you have something to say about that?
Yeah, just that that's probably one of my favorite features, because when you then get to see your students interacting with each other, the best ability for a teacher is the ability to then step back and just observe and just understand their relationships and how they're working with each other, to then pick and choose your right moment. It's almost becoming like a coaching process to then just go and dip in and dip out with the group work, but still allow those students to be the drivers, as opposed to everything being teacher led. It's giving them the independence to go and do it themselves within their group.
It's huge. I'm all about student-centered learning, and Teams really helps me to give up some of that control. So we're going to be talking about Teams today. One of the ways to access Microsoft Teams is teams.office.com. And that means that you can access it in the browser from anywhere. If I go to London, if I go to South Africa, and I had this happen. I went to Dublin and I forgot my power cord. I was like, oh, I left that at home. They just don't even have the same plugs in Ireland, so kind of a problem for me, but it doesn't even matter because I'm able to jump on any device, go to teams.office.com and log in and interact with my students. There is, however, an app, and that's what I'm using right now is the Microsoft Teams app, but honestly, they look pretty similar. Adam, do you notice any big differences between using the downloaded application versus the web?
No, they try. I know that Microsoft try and make the interface look as simple as possible. There's a couple of things within assignments that look a little bit different within the app when you get into it and when you're setting, but primarily for jumping on, getting onto your teams, having your chat facilities and everything, they try and do the best. And that's one of the most likable reasons for Teams is that it's universal then across most platforms and devices.
Now, I find that frequently I'm looking at some student work and I realize I need to update something or I need to respond somewhere else. This is pretty much every day. I feel like I need to be in multiple places at the same time. So right this moment, I am in the Microsoft Teams app, but I'm also in the exact same team on the browser. And I will open up more than one tab on the browser for the same team so I can give feedback, make an assignment, and do the chat with students, depending on where I need to be in that particular moment without losing my place. Do you do that at all, Adam?
I've started to do that as I'm becoming more of a multitasker. The more classes that we put onto Teams, the more I want to. I don't quite have enough screens. Yeah, I've got big visions of becoming like Tony Stark one day and just being surrounded by screens and being able to touch and interact with as many of my students as possible through the Teams platforms. But the other good thing about that is with the new Edge Chromium browser, being able to be on multiple accounts at any one time is just such a massive win then for interacting with different teams as well.
All right, so I have a little screenshot here of what the interface looks like. So whether I'm in the downloaded application on my desktop or I am on the browser, it looks pretty much like this. You're going to be going to Teams, which is on that left sidebar, and it's going to show you a tile of all of your classes. So when you're ready to join a team, you're going to use that button right in the upper right-hand corner. And then if you're wondering why this has a taco on it, I would love to tell you it's because yesterday was Cinco de Mayo and in honor of Taco Tuesday. But actually, I just have like a love affair with PowerPoint Slides Designer. It's have a good time on a Saturday night, honestly. So that's just the icon it put in there. When I typed in, what do you do with Microsoft Teams? And I pushed the slide designer, it just put in a taco, which I thought was weird, but then I thought, I really like tacos, so I'm going to leave it. So what can you do with Microsoft Teams? You can create a class. And I think a lot of people don't really realize that because Microsoft Teams was initially created for teams at a corporation and companies. And so they thought, wow, this is working so good at bringing people together and having conversations and really allowing collaboration. Let's bring this to the classroom. So I just love this idea that my class is a team rather than being teacher focused, that we are learning together. So I think it really makes a lot of sense to do Microsoft Teams for our classes so we'd be able to create a class. And then here's another love affair of mine with Slides Designer. I literally typed these as bullet points and it automatically created the icons to go with it. And I just love that, just pointing that out. If you've not used the Slides Designer in PowerPoint, you can have a lot of fun with me.
Hey, Alice.
Yes.
Are you sharing your screen? Because I am only seeing the video of you.
That is good information.
It could just be me. This is my first time in Microsoft Teams.
I thought I was sharing my screen.
I see your screen, Alice. She's probably just needs to click on another option.
You
I've
might
got
see the
everything that's clickable.
I might be pinned. Let me click on this.
I see your screen. Your sharing is working.
Okay.
Everything that I see says, teachers, start here.
What I'm presenting this is our adventure. I think I just love Teams meeting, and so this is a great opportunity to do this with you guys. But yes, with the recording, I'm not sure how the sharing looks, so this part is a little bit of an experiment for me. So I'm going to click the share button. When I hover over the screen of Teams meeting, I do share, and it comes up. It says, do I want to share my whole desktop, one of my particular windows, and then it says, hey, you got all these PowerPoints that you've been using. Do you want to use one of those? That is such an amazing feature. I don't have to like preload it or have it somewhere else. It suggests to me knowing that I'm going to want to use those. So it says that I'm presenting. I press the share button, so I'm hoping that's what it's doing. Can you see it now?
No, but again, I think it's maybe
Yes.
just that I'm brand new. I'm clicking on the left-hand side. I see activity, chat, teams, and assignments,
So
and none of that works.
I think what you've done is you've gone outside of the app, and there should be like a little floating window. Is that correct? Of the video?
Yes.
So click on the floating app of the video so that it goes full screen. Now, does it show it?
That did it. That did it.
That's a really great point, though, here is we're using Microsoft Teams Meeting, which, again, is my favorite video application tool, is because I don't feel like when I'm using Teams Meeting that I'm locked into Teams Meeting. When I use a competitor product, when the presenter goes and screen shares, it full screens it for everybody, and then I'm lost because I'm trying to figure out how I can participate and do active things while I'm watching. So in Teams, what it does, when I click away from the meeting, it just makes the meeting small into a little floating window, and I can still check other parts of Teams and be productive and do work, which I just think is fantastic.
That's great.
So what can you do with Microsoft Teams? You can leave class announcements. Adam said this perfectly, is he's assigned something. How do they even know what it is? And if they have a question, where do they ask it? And that's really what Teams is great for. It does threaded discussions in the most beautiful, fun way of any platform ever of all time, in my opinion. Files are naturally collaborative. You can create assignments and you can give feedback. And of course, you can do a whole lot of other things, but that's just kind of a quick and short list. And if you are able to chat, if you put your questions in the chat, Anna's going to add them to slides at the end. If you're not able to chat or you just want to use your microphone, which I'm obviously totally cool with, go ahead and turn your mic on and jump on in. So what you're looking
Are all of these features with the paid and unpaid version of Teams?
No. Teams is free for schools. So there are 3, they're not called tiers. It's A1, A3, A5, and there's a name for it. And I'm going to learn that. So the A1, the free version, I can't really notice that you're missing a whole lot of things. I think all of these features, I'm positive, all these features that I'm going to show you today for sure are available in the A1 version. I can't really speak to the difference between A1, A3, and A5, but there are some things that you can and cannot do. I know if you're using, say, Microsoft Word. Now, my favorite thing about Microsoft Word is that I can turn it into a sway, which is super cool, except you can only do that on an 0365. That's either an A1, A3, or an A5. But if you have the free version, so if you're using a Google account, someone invites you to their Word document and you just log in and create a Microsoft account with your Google email, you're using the free version, and the free version does not allow you to make a sway. So I know that there's definitely some things that the free consumer version does not have that the Office, the free one for schools, it's free for schools, does have. I believe if I'm on the free version, I can join a team and interact and be a guest in a team, but I don't think I can create a team from the free version. I'm not 100% positive on that, but I'm pretty sure. If anybody knows can correct me. So the left sidebar is where you pretty much find all of the action, and you'll notice is that there's these 3 dots. So it's activity, chat, teams, assignments, and then 3 dots. And I usually find that most often when I'm using the browser. Just because of my browser size, I tend to keep my windows a little bit smaller. So as icons get hidden because there's just not enough room, you're going to make sure that you click on those 3 dots where you can find the calendar, because the calendar integrates in really nicely with Teams. So what I did to make this Teams meeting for today is I have a team for people who want to interact with me and participate in these webinars, and then I create a channel for each of the webinars. And so you would do that for your class, except not for each webinar, but you do it for each topic or each unit. And then you're able to create a video meeting with them right in that channel. So it organizes everything up really nicely, but it usually gets hidden under that 3 dots. So we would click, but we're going to click on Teams. That's what we're obviously going to focus on today, is on the left-hand side, although this finger is now pointing to the right. But on the left-hand side, there is an icon that says Teams. So when you click on Teams, you'll notice you have the option in the upper right-hand corner to join or create a team. And obviously, you click Create Team to create a team. It is unbelievably fast and easy. You should be able to do this in under 2 minutes. And you're going to be able to add your students with their email, but you can also provide them a code. So your students might join the team with a code if you choose to go that route. I would think that most of your teams are auto-populated by the district or the school. They might be, they might not be. So I definitely want to know how to add students to a team, but don't feel restricted to only using Teams with your roster of students that you have that the district created, because there's some really great reasons to create a separate team to interact with a subgroup of students or with a club. So you'll need to add students manually. Either they do it with a code or you add them in. It's going to pop up and give you different types of teams. So obviously with a class team, you can create a class. In a class team, it has an assignments tab. It has a grades tab. None of the other teams do. So the 2 that I primarily focus on is, do I need a grade book? Do I need to do assignments? I choose class. If I don't, I choose PLC. Those are the most common ones that I would do. So you want to make sure your class is clearly identifiable. Now, I would teach 6 periods of Algebra 1. So I'm going to do P1, P2, P3 algebra for each of them. I want to make sure I know which one is which. As you're switching around, you want to make sure that the very first few icons is clear to you and the student what this class is about. Now, you'll notice when you create a class, it says create a team using an existing team as a template. So if I'm teaching 6 periods of Algebra 1, I'm going to create my first class, set it up with my channels how I want to, get my files in there, and then I use that as a template to make period 2, period 3, so I'm not recreating the wheel the whole time. And then it prompts you, do you want to add students or co-teachers? So you see it says students and teachers at the top. Now, if they are at your school, if they're on your what they call tenant, their name should populate just as you start to type them. I don't have to put their email, but I am able to add guests. So if you know the email address of somebody outside of your school that you want to add as a guest, and I'm fairly certain the district could shut that ability off. So if you're not able to do that, you're going to want to talk to your administrator about it, your IT administrator. You notice as I type in their names, it just auto-populates, like, here's kids at the school. Do you want any of these? And you just choose them. Super simple. And then opens up your team, and this is what you're going to see. You see on the left-hand side, it has all your channels. You're like, I only have one channel. That's right, just defaults to one channel. And I would tell you that channels are the best part of Teams. The best part of Teams is channels. And so I want you to just kind of focus in your mind, like, what kind of channels am I going to make? So I would start there. You can add class materials, which you'll notice it gives you a little icon in the center to upload class materials, but you can actually just go straight to the Files tab because that's where those would live. And you'll see also that there is an Assignments tab up at the top since we created a class team. All right. Now, I know most people would probably not start with channels, but it is my favorite part. So, Adam, what kind of channels do you create for your class? Because this is, think, how would you organize your class instead of dumping everything into one pit? What do you do?
Well, with my classes, because as I say, I like most educators at the moment are making the first jump into Teams. I've tried to think really stringently about the kind of channels I want to do. I've got 3 at the moment. They're very important to me. General is where all of the administration will appear that I do within my team. I don't want that to be too clustered. Okay, I appreciate that everything's going to go in there. It's Microsoft's default setting at the moment. But if I then want my class to have class information, boom, a channel about class information where I've enabled the chat thread so students can respond straight to that. I've then also called, and it's a very British term, but in the current climate, it's very important. I've then created a channel called Classroom Banter, and all what that is just an opportunity for my students to go in there, and obviously I can then moderate it, and I don't want to be policing it all the time, but what I do want to do is I want to give my students the opportunity to improve their communication skills, but to still have a conversation about their well-being, about how they're feeling about maths or anything else. So I don't want my class notifications to be too cluttered, but I do still want to give my students the opportunity to have a conversation. One of the best examples that I've had at the moment is that someone's posted within the Classroom Banter about one of the Flipgrid videos that they've put in. I don't want to go off on that because that's a whole other thing, but I just want to talk therefore then about the 2 differences. As I say, I want to be in control. I want my class notifications to be important. Everything's going to go in the general chat, but I do still want to then give my students an opportunity to have a place to communicate with me in a light-hearted 21st century way, really.
I really love that. I know a lot of times I hear that sometimes teachers just want to turn off the ability for students to chat, but just remember our kids are really social, and it's those opportunities to hear what they're doing and some of that banter that students are doing that really helps me to get a better picture of how they're feeling. And it's to me one of the most important, because remember, I use Teams to interact with my students. So I think that's a wonderful idea. It's giving them an outlet for where they can do it. And by the way, you can turn off the notifications on any particular channel. So if it's all driving you nuts that the kids are chatting too much, you don't have to get a notification on it.
Hi, Adam and Alice. This is John, and you just made me think about my friend Kim, and her kids are literally doing a countdown in their chat every morning. Only 5 more minutes till we get to talk to the teacher. That's pretty freaking beautiful, right? Like, that's the best. I wouldn't want to stop that. And I hear what you're saying, Alice, like we don't want a ton of notifications, but I think that's the human part of leading a classroom, especially in the current situation. So I just wanted to share that. Like, can you imagine kids going like, only 5 more minutes till Mr. Grocott, it's going to be so cool today. That's awesome.
John, I would be very, very surprised if any one of my students ever said that with such enthusiasm as what you've done. But it's very right as to what you say. It's that human approach at the moment in the current climate, and it's great to hear that other people are feeling that too. As I say, one of my colleagues up in Scotland, she's hosting weekly meetings and catch-ups for her tutor group just within Teams, just to check in on them all. The asynchronous learning can take care of itself. What she just wants to do is she just wants to get back in touch with them. And it's almost, I found myself in the first instance when I'd settled my class team being governed by, like, I've got a notification, which kids posted something, and it made me excited and made me enthused. If every one of my students was to be able to put that they were excited to be back in touch within 5 minutes, I'd be over the moon. But as I say, and I agree with you, it's about giving that sort of human feel and that human approach back to working with our students in the current time. So yes, and it's great to hear that other people are doing it too.
Important. In the modern age, school is obviously different than when I went to school. When I went to school, my teacher couldn't have used Teams. They couldn't have used, digital quizzes or anything like that. And they didn't use it because it wasn't good for pedagogy. It just wasn't available. And so as we use these digital tools, we should be rethinking how we even approach teaching and learning. There's a ton of online courses. People do this that are completely self-paced. It's videos and quizzes. That's not what makes school school. It's not what you can put online. We go to school every day to be together. And now that we're struggling with being together, Teams allows us to be together. And that brings a lot of normalcy for a lot of people that is really important. I'm a super extrovert. Without having some sort of lifeline, like with social media and ways that I can interact with my students, when I sit down to give feedback, that is like the best part of my day. It's an interaction with students. That is the best part of my day. Grading isn't not my best part of my day, just marking things. It's the feedback, the asking me questions and responding to that I really enjoy. So when I think channels, I do one for every unit, every project. You can do group work, so you create a channel per group, and think of anything where you might want to have a conversation that you don't want to have just mixed in and thrown into the general pot, you should create a channel for that. Okay, so what we want to do is, as users of technology, is get excited. If you see 3 dots, like, what? 3 dots? More options menu? Yeah, give me some more options. That sounds real good. So if you click on the 3 dots right in the channel, you'll notice, or on the team, and notice it gives you the option to add a channel. So it's real quick and easy to add channels. And when you add a channel, oops, I slide there, I guess I didn't. When you add a channel, it gives you the option to make it private or not. So you can make a channel just for an individual group, like group 1 just has these couple of members in it, and you can have them do their group work, and then any chatter, banter, work that they do together is just amongst them and not the whole class. And so it's real quick and easy to do those. And so after you have started your team, you can go to the Files tab, or you can click on that icon that it gives you to do class materials. But notice that there is a folder here on the Files tab, and that's really important to understand that that folder is view only. If you create a team that is not a class team, it doesn't have one of these. They're like, why would you only give view only files? You can create your own view only folder, but classes default and provide you a view only folder for you to put your syllabus, any materials related to the class, your rubrics that you share in advance. But if you click on the new or upload and just add it outside of that folder, those files are collaborative. All right, so then what's the thing that we probably do the most after we get to know our students is we create assignments. You will see that along the top of your class team, it gives the option to do assignments. You can click on that. It also says assignments on the left-hand side in the sidebar. It just says create. You can create an assignment or quiz, and a quiz is a Microsoft form automatically set up for you just to do the quizzing. So it's real nice that you don't have to exit and go out to Microsoft Forms. You can create it right in there. And from existing, you can reuse. Take advantage of that. If you do a daily warm-up, isn't your directions pretty similar every day? You don't want to have to type it from scratch every time. So if you go in from existing, grab an assignment that already exists. And by the way, you can do it across teams or across classes. So you can grab an assignment from a class first period for third period, go grab it, edit, update it for the new use. So I would highly encourage that. Use from created. I'm going to click on assignment. And when I click on assignment, it gives you a lot of very obvious things to fill out. It has the title. So here is my bestest best tip. Number all of your assignments with a hashtag and a 3-digit number. And the hashtag to me is really important because it takes it away from being a 1, which everything has a 1 in it, to being assignment 1. So the hashtag really makes it unique to being an assignment. And it just allows me to use a lot less words. I'm like, hey guys, we're working on number 5 today. Hey, Adam, you're missing number 7 and number 12. Can you work on those? It allows me to use a lot less words and more clearly communicate. If I'm not trying to say, hey, you forgot to do your warm-up. Which warm-up? We do a warm-up every day. Okay, well, it's number 12. Oh, number 12. I think you're going to find this is the most useful thing you can do is everything you post into Teams as an assignment that you use a 3-digit number. And I'm really sticky about the hashtag. It's really important to me. I know Adam's not using it because I saw his facial expression, but I'm going to peer pressure him later to number all of his assignments. You can start to build.
No, it was more so just the fact.
You can start to.
It was more so just the fact that you knew that me and my nature, there was probably going to be a couple that were outstanding at the moment.
Build what you want your grade book to look like, so you can add categories to the assignment. I just, from this screenshot, had just created this team, so there are no categories. So you can go ahead and add your assignment categories right from an assignment, and it'll populate that. And then I like to add directions documents. Now, one thing I think is wicked awesome about Teams is that the instructions box is multimedia. Well, it allows you to do rich text. It's not multimedia. I apologize. I can do the multimedia with the resources, but I can bold, I can underline, I can highlight, I can hyperlink. And something that makes me super happy is when I hyperlink, it says, what do you want it to say? Instead of just having this big, long, ugly link that's clickable. I can just say click here and have that hyperlinked without being the whole link. So helps me to communicate more clearly right in the instructions description. Ooh, that shouldn't have been so hard to say. But you can add any files that you have. So you can add PowerPoint and Word when you click on add resources. And I like to create a directions document because in there, either in Word or PowerPoint, that's where I can add my multimedia with pictures. I always put my Bitmoji, and that's not frivolous. When you create digital materials and students are accessing digital directions, they want to feel like they have a teacher. My master's degree is in educational media design and technology, and that's one of the things I learned way back in 2009 when I got my master's. And at the time, Bitmoji didn't exist. So their suggestion was to have like a clip art dog or something that walks them through the digital instruction, because you just want to feel like someone's walking alongside you with the directions. But you know what? They have a teacher, and it's not a clip art dog, it's you. So I like to include in all of my directions documents and all my instructional documents my Bitmoji, so they feel like I'm talking to them and I'm interacting with them. It's a little more personal. Okay, and then you can obviously add points. They allow you to add a rubric. We're not going to have time today to go over rubrics. I could literally spend an entire hour just on rubrics. But for those of you who would like a cheat, if you go to alicekeeler.com/teamsrubric, I've got a spreadsheet template that will allow you to build it up a little quicker. You do need to save it as a CSV to upload it into the assignment. That's advanced. We're not going to talk about it. But obviously, right, I can type in some points. I can add a rubric. And then notice the little icons on assign to and all students. You should click on those. What's these two little rectangles? Click on them. It allows you to assign to more than one class. Because remember, I teach 6 periods of Algebra 1. Well, then I don't want to have to post this assignment 6 times. I would like to post it 1 time to all of my classes. So you're going to click on that little icon, choose all your sections, and then you know what's great about Teams is I can differentiate. I can give an assignment to just one student or a subgroup of students and create those specialized moments. I had a phone call with my daughter's math teacher this morning. He's really awesome. My daughter's struggling with some things, like, okay, why don't you just have her do these activities over here, and we'll excuse her from this other activity that she's already demonstrated she knows how to do and it's causing her some stress. So in that case, we would create an assignment. He'd be able to click on the icon for all students and remove my daughter from the assignment because we agreed she's not going to do that one, but she was going to do a different project instead and create a different assignment with just her. When you click on the all students, deselect everyone, select the individual students in that subgroup, which is a really powerful thing to be able to do. And the other students are none the wiser. They're not going to notice that a student is missing from being assigned. And this is just my own bugaboo. Please change the due time. For whatever reason, the default is 11:59 p.m. Now, I like to quote John Crippo as often as I possibly can. And one of the things I learned from John Crippo is Parkinson's law. How long you have.
Amen.
You want to speak on that, John?
I sure can. And Adam, you'll love this too, I think, if you haven't heard this phrase before. But basically speaking, if you tell kids they have plenty of time, they won't start the project. I mean, that's pretty much what it comes down to. So Parkinson's law is actually made by a British economist in the late 50s, and he was trying to describe the bureaucratic economy of England at the time and how slow things were. And so basically, Parkinson's law dictates that people will wait until the last minute to do things. So basically what you do in Parkinson's law is you give people a sooner due date to spur activity, and it works out really well.
Yeah, so one of the things that I would just like to argue is nothing is more important than family dinner. And I travel quite a bit. I go around the world, and people are oftentimes very gracious to invite me to come have dinner with them. And I would say more often than not, their kids don't have dinner with us because their work is due at midnight. And Parkinson's law, yeah, they could fight human nature and get their work done before dinner. I don't do that, and I'm a responsible adult, and so we're asking kids to to be more responsible. And they really shouldn't be staying up until 11:59 at night. And if they do, I just don't want it to be my fault. So please, you never really had to think about the time that it was due before, but now you do. And it's hard. It's really hard. But I ask you to reconsider letting it be midnight. I'm just going to move on. That's my rant, and that's I said my piece. Now, one of the things is when you make an assignment, and Adam had brought this up, is when he was assigning his assignments through OneNote, how do they know about it? And so now when you are using Microsoft Teams, when you post an assignment, it actually posts right on to the general tab, which is a great reason to have those channels, because you don't want the general tab to get so cluttered that they can't find the assignment announcements. Adam, do you know other places that it announces or other ways students can find the assignments?
What you can do is then copy a link to the assignment and repost that as a notification, or as I say, you can put in your class note. So again, going back to my class notifications, I'll then put in an announcement different to just a standard post. I like going into that little edit tool and then posting that it's going to be a major announcement, and I'll copy the link from the assignment then to that announcement. So as again, if I'm putting a reminder in or something else like that, boom, my students know and they're directed straight to it.
Right, so then they'd be able to go in there. And so here is the paradigm shift, is when you use Microsoft Teams, is you can access student work before they submit. This should mean we teach differently with different tools. It's not digital, it's different. So what does that mean, the fact that you can have access to the work before they submit? Just think on that for a second. You know, currently, just by the limitations of paper, most of our feedback ends up being autopsy feedback. It's what we give to them after they are done, but it tends to die because as soon as you put a grade on something, students hyper focus on the grade. When they think they're done, they're like, I'm done. Why are you still talking about this? If they're not done with it, they're a lot more receptive to hearing your feedback. So you're actually able to go in and see their work before they submit. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick look at that. And Adam's going to be my fake student. I'm going to stop presenting. I am going to try to present this window, this one. Okay. And you'll see that I've clicked on Teams on the left-hand side. It is showing me a grid of all of my classes. I'm going to come down here to my period 1 geometry class. And you'll see it has announced this assignment that I have created. And I can also just click on assignments up at the top. And I can see these are the assignments that I have assigned. I'm going to choose number 1. And what I can see is that Adam has not turned this in, and he's not even opened the assignment yet. So I'm going to switch the screen sharing over to Adam. So now you see from the teacher point of view, I've assigned it. I know he hasn't done any work. Adam's going to show you what it looks like for him to find it and to do some work.
So I'm assuming now that people are going to start seeing my. Just if you can give me confirmation, people are seeing my desktop now. I've gone again instinctively. My P1 geometry class in the general tab is where I found it. I've gone to my assignments at the top, and there is assignment 001. Create a PowerPoint about yourself. Now I'm in it. It's brilliant. One thing that I'm going to take a brilliant opportunity to just introduce here, people may not see it, but it's probably one of the best icons that will pop out for you. If I'm a student that's struggling to access the instructions that my teacher has set, the first thing that I'm going to click on is Immersive Reader. I'm not going to do that right now because that's a whole presentation and webinar within itself and the power of Immersive Reader, but you do need to know that that's there and you need to direct your students to it, okay? But here's my directions. I'll go into my Word document now, Alice, and I'll start having a look. I'm hoping to see some Bitmojis.
I should have, but I didn't think you were going to really open it. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll close that then, and I'll go and start adding some work. One of my favorite things about Teams is then when students always say to me, well, what should I do it on? Okay, well, let's add some work, and it's going to come up with probably your 3 most prominent options. Okay, I can go into my OneDrive and I can access my files from there, but if I want to create a new file, then sure enough, it's going to bring me up Word, PowerPoint, or Excel. Let's call this presentation All About Me AG because my teacher's told me to use my initials probably as a naming convention, so she knows then which student it's applicable to. I'm going to attach that file then to my assignment.
Mm-hmm.
And
now what can you do?
And then, well, now I can open up the PowerPoint and I can work on it right here within Teams. What I love about this is that I'm not then migrating out of Teams and into PowerPoint and I'm working on something there. I'm working directly within the team. I found my assignment. My teacher said it to me. She's given me the opportunities to create the work for myself. And now I'm in it and I can take control through the PowerPoint online version right here housed within Teams.
Okay, so if you want to just start making a little PowerPoint, I'm going to try and find your PowerPoint through Teams myself. Tells me now that he's viewed it. I am in Teams and I'm looking at Adam's PowerPoint. It says all about me.
I'm going to see how quickly I can do this. I know that it's one of your favorites.
It is definitely one of my favorites. And you'll see that second slide was added in there.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, here it is.
Adam, close down the slide designer really quickly because that is like real my favorite. So up in the upper right hand corner, the very last icon there on the toolbar in PowerPoint is that down right below it. The slides designer. Icon below. Yeah, click on the slides designer icon. It's the last icon on the bottom right of
you want me to open up the slide? Okay.
Yeah. I just want to show you how you access that. And so it just suggests to you, like, wouldn't you like to make it look awesomer? So you can see that on the next slide, though, I've actually gone in and inserted some feedback to Adam already, even though he's clearly done next to nothing. He's got his title slide, which is a good start. So I opened it. So what I like to do is I have my students do their work in PowerPoint because I can add a slide just for me. So I add slides within their slides. That's where I leave some of my feedback. I can add a video. I can copy and paste from some other PowerPoints that I have of pre-made feedback that I have. That's one of the ways that I give feedback through Teams is I ask students to make a PowerPoint, and while they're working, I go in, take a look, and leave them some feedback slides. I can also insert comments, clicking on different elements of his work and insert comments into the PowerPoint, but I'm assuming most of you know that, so I want to show you something a little different. Okay, so I am able to do that. So if you want to go ahead and turn in this assignment, please.
I'll close that there and I'll click hand in. Very simple to find. Given me a date as to when I've handed it in, empowering your students to take control of their organisation and what they want to do. And I'm now going to probably pass it back over to you, Alice, because I'm hoping you're going to give me a grade on that.
That is the plan. I'm going to back this up just a little bit so we can all see how this looks. I'm going to go to assignments. I am going to go to my period 1 geometry. And this is number 1, create a PowerPoint about yourself. And I can see now Adam's status has gone from not turned in. This other student has viewed it, which is really nice to see, but they're not done, to turned in. So these ones who have not turned in, they haven't even looked at it. I'm not opening those to go give them feedback because they haven't even looked at the document. So that really saves me a lot of time. I'm going to click here where it says turned in. It immediately opens up to this feedback tool where it launches the PowerPoint. I can see his work and I can enter some feedback here. And if I had made this worth points, I would be able to put the points here where it says no points, and I'm going to click return. It is really important that you return work in Teams. So notice what that's going to do is when I return it.
No, I don't know if people have just heard that. But my little blip then went off straight away because now I've got a little pop-up because I'm in the Teams app and I'm working on this right now. Assignments has just popped up and it says assignment return 001.
Do you want to screen share or show what this looks like?
Well, that's gone now, but I'll share my screen so as then people can see me within Teams again.
Please.
I'm going to go back to, well, straight away up here in the red dot, I've got my activity. So
you're not screen sharing. We lose him. I'm gonna grab the screen share until he comes back. So when I'm in here, you can see that 1 out of 4 students have turned it in, so I get that count. And once all 4 are done, it's gonna move into this graded category, so it's kind of hidden away, so I can see what assignments still need to be graded. And then I can just navigate right back to my team by clicking on Teams on the left. And that's where you'll notice I have these different channels. So I can put in resources and have conversation around Unit 1. You see I have posts.
Alice, I'm sorry. I'm still just seeing the create a PowerPoint about yourself.
What?
Yeah.
It says I'm screen sharing. Okay, try it again. Thank you. That's one good reason why you have a microphone. I swear that I clicked on this.
sorry, I was then thrown out then as I was about to demonstrate that my notification had popped up to say that I'd received some feedback. Sorry.
That's all right. Well, let me just show here. I'm in the unit. I'm able to add files for that particular unit, keep my conversations all within here. And something that's really nice is I can do this plus icon to add a tab to the top. So I can link to websites, add Flipgrid. If you have a particular PowerPoint for the lesson that you're working on, you can basically pin it to the top of the channel. So those are some nice features. As I go back to the general tab, you'll notice that it says class notebook. So this is where I'm gonna stop screen sharing and turn this over to Adam to share how he uses class notebook or OneNote.
Okay, well, one of the things that I want to go back to for anyone that's joined in late is that Class Notebook was the only feature that we had at the school that I was working at. We didn't have Teams, so sharing everything and utilizing everything through Class Notebook was an integral part of everything that we were doing. It was almost like our only communication tool for distributing work and everything. So I just want to quickly, because Class Notebook in itself, then because it's integrated within Teams, it's then direct access. And one of my best mates, Pete, actually asked me just 2 weeks ago. He was like, Ad, we're on Teams now. In about 6 weeks' time, can you show me Class Notebook? He said, because there seems to be a lot that goes on with that, and there is, but that just goes to show how powerful it is. I use Class Notebook because it's probably one of the most flexible canvases that you can use for creating content for your students. So I'm just going to quickly, I promised Alice that I'll do this within 2 minutes, but if I demonstrate now one of my Class Notebooks that I've utilized for then sharing some work with my students.
Is your actual class notebook?
This is my actual Class Notebook. Obviously, for reasons obvious, I'm not going to share my student names and everything. But this, when I'm talking about flexibility with space, this is a page that's housed within my Class Notebook. I've inserted a table. I've inserted a stream with video instructions of myself that I did using the screen recorder built in PowerPoint. Screen record myself, upload it to stream, put the stream within the page. So again, going back to that asynchronous learning where my students want to feel like it's still me and it's still me that's teaching them. Well, that's my voice. That's not just me just ripping off someone else's material from YouTube. They can do that for themselves. They want to know that I'm their teacher and that they care, that I care, and that they can get involved with the learning. So there's my instructions on how to do a spreadsheet. I've put snip your spreadsheet below in the section, or I could get them to upload it, or I could get them to upload it within the assignment. I could create this assignment within Teams and say you'll find it. But one of the best then features for every student to have this is I would then go to my Class Notebook tool, distribute that page, and then similar to what Alice was talking about earlier with assignments, I can distribute this page, or I can do it by group, I can do it by individuals, and I can send that out exactly to wherever I want and what I've created. You know, when we were talking earlier about channels and saying which channels you want for compartmentalizing stuff, here's the 3 sections that every student has that I've created when I've created the Class Notebook, and that would then simply allow me to select which one I want to send it out to, and I distribute it out from there. Again, real great powerful tools here within Class Notebook. I can review the student work in here. So what I like to do sometimes is I include a feedback rubric, and because I've got a Surface Pro, sometimes I also like to put in a sort of commitment to learning score as well, so as my students know how I feel about their work. But there's loads of features there within Class 1 Notebook that you can do, and that's housed right here within Teams.
Awesome, thanks for sharing that. The thing that I really want to emphasize again is that it's not digital, it's different. And we're able to just really rethink what the school day looks like, and that I don't have to be the sole source of all the information. What I do with my time as the teacher, research has shown, is the most effective element in the classroom. And if I'm using that time to give low-level instruction, these are these vocabulary words, all I'm going to hear all day, first of all, is, wait, I missed that. Could you do again? I was in the nurse's office. What did I miss? So I try to get a lot of that information in a short video, into text, someplace that students can access that basic information, so I can shift how I spend my time to encouraging students, giving high-quality feedback, and increasing critical thinking. I just don't have extra time, so I have to do it differently if I want to be able to hit those elements really strongly. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the team, and I want to show you how I create an assignment from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and on the General tab, go to Assignments. I'm going to create an assignment. Again, a quiz is going to make a Microsoft form. We'll do that in another webinar. We're going to create an assignment. I'm going to number it. Number 3, make a baseball math activity. And I'm going to, under resources, add resources. And in my OneDrive, I've got a baseball classroom activity document. So there's my directions. And you'll notice it defaults to students cannot edit. And I try to make sure that my first attachment is a directions type document.
Is
And
anyone else still on the old page? Is that what's showing on the screen, or is it just me?
Yeah, I'm not seeing the action you're doing, Alice. It's still PowerPoint. Create a PowerPoint.
Still create a PowerPoint. I don't know why. I am for sure clicking this. Did it do it?
I was seeing your live action. It was following along with what you were saying.
Okay. I'm not
I
sure.
only see your create a PowerPoint
Me too.
assignment.
Yep.
Aha. I see what I did. This is my fake student. And I feel like I picked the right screen share from this very tiny, now we're good?
There we go.
Okay.
So much better.
It is a very tiny tile, and I'm old. Okay, so let me just try this again. I'm going to go ahead and discard. Yes. I'm going to create a new assignment. Number 003, make a math baseball activity. I'm going to add some resources. And again, I like to use my directions document first. And you'll see it says students cannot edit. I like to add different resources for them to look at, maybe a PowerPoint of a reading or a PDF of a reading. And then I'm going to add a resource. And I have a PowerPoint in here somewhere. Well, I'm just going to use this one because I want to be faster. So I'm going to do this area of a shaded. I'm going to select that PowerPoint out of my OneDrive. And you notice the default is students cannot edit. In this particular case, I want students to have edit access of their own copy. So I want, again, those 3 dots are really exciting. That's what we want to see. So I'm going to do the 3 dots. Students edit their own copy. And that's going to distribute a copy to each student. Put in my points. If you want to add a rubric, you can. You can assign it to multiple classes. If I click here, I can select multiple classes, and I can select individual students if I want to not assign it to everyone. And I like to do 4 o'clock. And if I come down a little further here, it says edit, which gives you a few more options where you can have the due date, but then you can also do a close date where they can no longer submit it late and assign. So it's pretty quick and easy to make an assignment. So in this case now, Adam has got the PowerPoint. So Adam, if you want to just screen share over, show your PowerPoint that you have it already, and then we'll take some questions and be done.
Yeah, what I'm really hoping appears here. Yeah, see, I'm hoping that I got that in time enough to be able to share my screen. That right down here now, I'm in Teams, so there was a little pop-up in my assignments at the bottom right-hand corner. Top left is my activity. This is my space. This is the important notifications for me. I can find it straight away from there. It's appearing in the general posts tab. Absolutely fine. I'll go into view that assignment. and it then directs me to my team. I'm in my P1 geometry team, and it's going to take me straight away into that assignment then within the team.
So if you had multiple classes, you would have the activity from all of your classes announced up in that activity bell to help you to switch classes quickly, correct?
Yeah.
So that's one of the features that I really love about Teams is that activity notification. So I would continuously direct students to check their activity when you return it and you give them feedback. They do find out about it through that activity, and you do see that he does have his PowerPoint there, and it is his own copy. And I am going to get back to this PowerPoint. Anna, were you able to add any questions? Were there any? Never mind, Glenn. It's coming.
Yes, there's two on your slides.
Okay, awesome. And then I'll just take general questions if anybody wants to. Oops, I went too far. Can you create a smaller group of students on the chat groups? Absolutely, that is what you do with a channel. So when you create a channel, you have the it's by default the whole team, and you change it to being private, and you select which subgroup of students are going to be in that group, or just that smaller chat. And Adam?
Yes is the answer to that, and I don't want to be policing it forever, but I think it's important with my students that I'm encouraging best practice and that I'm modeling best practice at all times. So naturally, the cynics, when I propose this idea, will go, well, I'm not going to do that because the students will put in something ridiculous. Okay, let the students find out who the person is in their class that's going to post something ridiculous. That's going to help them forge a relationship with their peers. They need that ability to then know and make those decisions about those people. That person needs the guilt of realizing that actually now people don't want to collaborate with them because they've given themselves a bad reputation. So I like giving them an opportunity where they may trip themselves up because they're young people and they need to learn that, and they will only do that if I give them the opportunity to. We don't build swimming pools and not let them get used, so that's always my metaphor on that. Yes, give them the opportunity to trip themselves up. Yes, I police it. Yes, I monitor it. But one of the best things about it is actually if you get the culture right with your students, they police it themselves. How many times we all work in schools, we all work in these communities. How many times do students come up and tell you that another student has done something wrong? They're going to do it all the time. So they're going to do it within teams, and they're going to do it within the banter chat. Sometimes, as well as I say, what I've started to do, I've started it off myself. Has anyone seen such and such on certain social media platforms and talking about how many views, etc.? Because I try and get a maths hook in. But yes, I do monitor it. I do look after it. But the best bit about it really is that the students start to do that themselves as well.
And I would like to just point out that Teams in particular is a product used by many, many companies, and knowing how to behave online is an essential skill. This is exactly what people get fired over, is they don't know how to interact, collaborate, to be polite, and people will say things in different ways. And of course, there's always tone to consider. When they're in an online environment. And it's important that we teach kids that this is how they're going to be interacting very likely once they leave our schools, whether it be through Teams or some other product. Most companies have some sort of digital interaction, and including email. Do they know how to have a subject line and to have a polite greeting? And that's just not a natural skill. So we have to teach them how to do all of these things. And so I expect kids are going to be kids. When I allow them to chat, especially the first few times, I think it's going to be a disaster. Hey, homie, what's up? Let them get it out of their system. And then I ask the students, is that productive? Does that help the team and the class? What kinds of things would be helpful? And let them start to build the norms. Is there any other questions? Someone asked me in the chat whether or not it was a problem if the numbers go out of order. The kids might point it out, what happened to number 24? And I'm like, don't worry about it. So sometimes I skip chunks of numbers because I forget what number I'm on, or they go out of order because I have some that I've pre-created, but then I've added some things on the fly. It really doesn't matter. It's just a reference number, and I just let them know that. I'm like, nah, it doesn't matter. And then they roll with it. It's really not an issue. Any other questions? All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Adam, thanks for, it's getting pretty late. I know you got some young kids, and I really appreciate you taking your time to come join us all the way from the UK. And I know Americans love people with accents, so it just made my webinar twice as good.
Well, I'm not sure about that. It's we're doing all right compared to some of the planning time conversations that you've wanted to have, but no, it's been an absolute pleasure to be a part of this, Alice. What I would ask is that if anyone's actually participated on this webinar, I haven't got the ability, unfortunately, at the moment to post my trendy background that I've created. So I'm just going to throw in the chat my Twitter handle. Please connect with me on Twitter. It'd be great to meet some of you. I know that there's been some participants from all over the world. This tiny little rock that I live on in the Channel Islands in between England and France has got some borders and some mindset borders as well, but I do love connecting with like-minded educators. So if you've been involved in this webinar, it's probably you're probably my kind of person, and I'd love to hear more from you. So yeah, please do look me up on Twitter, and I look forward to following you and working with you on ideas in the future.
Anybody know if I can jump slides? I just haven't tried to do it through Teams before, so I will be practicing that afterwards. I know how to do it in a regular PowerPoint. I think I put our Twitter handles on here, maybe. Did I? I did not. Just a lie. There was no reason for me to share that. I thought about it. Yeah.
There you go. There's my feedback to you then, Alice. I'll put that in my rubric.
Yes, please. Well, thanks everyone for joining, and have a great rest of your day. And Adam, have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Bye.
And the recording.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. So since this, oops, stop recording.